Friday the 19th of February 2021, and I'm here at the Four Courts with a number of people who are facing eviction. And first of all, I'm going to speak to Paul Farrell, who is an advocate for people who are facing evictions in the courts, and he's going to chat to me now and tell me what happened this morning. Paul.
Morning.
Good morning, Paul.
Yeah, it's a very sad day today. Basically, the judge has given 1 week for all these people to vacate the premises, and what we have is 21 people that are facing to going to be homeless this time next week.
And how did that happen?
Well, basically through no fault of theirs. They're tenants. Some of them have been in the property for over 20 years. They've paid their rents, no issue there. But what happened was the landlord, through commercial endeavours, basically his mortgage was sold on to a vulture fund. And it seems that the vulture fund have carte blanche to do what they like in this country, with absolutely no regard for the normal person. These tenants, to no fault of their own, are facing homelessness this time next week, and there's no joined up thinking. What we have here is a situation where these people will be homeless next week. Quite often the buildings are left semi-derelict, and there's no joined up thinking. If we could, even our government here today could look at this, I mean, there's 21 people, some children there going to have no homes this time next week. There has to be another way.
Okay.
Has to be.
So there was a possibility this morning that they could have been evicted today, and if they refused to move, there was a possibility that they could be jailed, but they managed to get a week's reprieve.
They managed to get a week's reprieve because it seems that there's some clause in the mortgages, as I understand it, where the tenants should be and have a right to be there. So the judge is cognizant of that fact, and this time next week they're going to present that again to the same judge, and hopefully that she would see reason to keep these people in their homes.
Vasil, you're one of the tenants who's facing eviction. Tell me a little bit about your situation.
But the situation is very awkward because it's no other way to go in the other place. Now it's a pandemic, nobody don't work, can't make any money, to kind of get a rent or whatever it is. And I live in that house from 17 years.
17 years?
Yeah, I'll be paid the rent for 17 years.
You're paying rent for 17 years?
Yes.
And you told me earlier that you're working in construction.
Yes.
What exactly is your trade?
My trade is a plaster and dry liner.
So you're a plasterer and dry liner?
Yes.
And obviously with construction shut down at the minute, you're out of work, is that so?
Of course, yeah. Can't work in.
Yes, and your wife is Irish, you tell me, and
no, it's Romania, but it's already Irish citizen.
Your wife is,
and the kids is Irish citizen already.
Right. So you have Irish citizenship.
Yes.
Okay. And how did it feel this morning coming to court, feeling that at some stage today?
Very sad, because I have to bring my kids in here, and I don't think so. Them doesn't feel very well. I do not feel very well. Everything it's like upside down in my life now.
Thank you so much, Vasil.
No problem.
Tom, you're an advocate for people who are arriving every day in the courts facing eviction. So just tell me a little bit about what you see happening here every day.
Well, exactly as he said, there are people coming here, they're facing charges, they're being evicted, they're facing committal proceedings, which is the worst part of the whole lot. And we have, unfortunately, groups of financiers who most of them are American, who have come into this country and who, in my book, my analysis, and it's my opinion, that they are stealing from the people of Ireland. And we have history coming back on ourselves, oddly enough, because there was a time in the 16th, 17th, 18th century, 19th century, people were being thrown out in them days, and it's now happening again. And I think this is a sad part of the whole thing, that you see re-evictions happening, and the judges, that judges have to do their jobs, I suppose. I disagree from a moral point of view, and I think that the people are in a bad place. And basically what my analysis of the whole thing is this, that the government, in my view, are liable for what is happening for all these people here. They are liable. I don't care what anybody says. And the liability is where they allowed letters from banks to be written to people back 20 years ago and less, until the collapse of 2010 or 2008. And since 2008, that the collapse has been so severe that even judges themselves have been caught up in it. The barristers themselves have been caught up in it, and the legal profession. There's nobody untouched. There are people in the judiciary, in my opinion, and it is my opinion only. I haven't got the full analysis of it, but there is a certain amount of analysis to show that, in actual fact, that they were also part and parcel of that. My condemnation is really this, that to have people who have owed money to the banks, who have actually acted with the banks to put people out in the streets. And I will mention one particular court in the Four Courts, whereby there's one man who is not a judge, but he's the master of the High Court.
Yes. And
the master of the High Court is one man who has tried and attempted very severely to try and help people who have been, in fact, because what happens is that these financiers come in and they go in by summary summons. That means they just look for orders there and then. And luckily enough, he's the man that looks at it and he sends it up to the main courts where the arguments can take place.
That's Edmund Honohan you're speaking about.
That would be him, yeah.
But he has been removed from that position.
Well, now he has.
Since January 2020.
Yes, and I think that's a sad day for Ireland. It's a sad day for people who are looking for justice, because he was one of the few. Now, there are other judges as well, of course. You know, I don't want to be knocking any of them. Yeah. But there are some who do look very attentively at what they have to do and favourably on people, and don't like, I suppose, what they have to do. Because the fact is that, you know, contracts are signed, and if somebody pays money, even if there's no contract written, even if they pay rent, then there's an assumed contract. And, you know, once you have the assumption there, then there's arguments for and against all of this here, and that's it. So
basically what you're saying is that you're in court very, very regularly helping people who are facing eviction.
Yes, I do.
And is the problem getting better or is it getting worse?
Oh, no. I actually do paperwork for the people. I have always had an interest in the law. I'm retired now. I was a retired businessman. And what I've done in the last, I think, 15 years now is I like what I do. It's sad, but it's I enjoy it because there's good times as well.
But is the problem getting better or worse?
Well, it's getting worse. I think it's getting worse. When I started off, there was only a few. Now there's mountains, and that's the reality. You come from down the country, if I go down to Galway, for instance, it is absolutely appalling down there. People are being thrown out left, right and centre. Even out in the country areas where people were always very careful about how they used. They were very prudent about money, especially the women. But nowadays, they all got caught up, and the modern children got caught up in all of this, and they were sent letters. Oh, congratulations, you've been allowed, you've been awarded 10,000 to borrow, and it went from there upwards.
Okay.
Now,
well, so Tom, basically, I suppose the reason why people have to resort to going to you to help them out is because they just can't afford the legal costs that are involved in going into court.
The legal costs are something astronomical. That's what I can say about that, astronomical. And I don't know, I work free of charge, and that I get great comfort when I win a case for somebody. I get great comfort in saying that we've got something, we worked for something, and the one thing they didn't have to worry about money.
Okay.
I work out of my pension, and I'm on the pension for a long time, and I take great pride in what I do.
Well, listen, Tom, I just want to thank you so much for that. Really, the country needs more people like you, and I just want to thank you for chatting to me this morning.
Well, in actual fact, if I may say, I'll put it out there now for the moment, if I could say that my ambition at the moment is to set up a group. I have a few people ready to help with me, but we're going to set up a group whereby we'll be able to work with people hopefully free of charge, whereby we can actually set up a proper group that will, in actual fact, help lay litigants. I was a lay litigant when nobody else knew what the word meant, and I'm going back 25, 30 years. Okay. And in them days, I have to say one thing, in favour of the courts, that they were splendid. They gave you every help that you wanted. And I would like to see them days back. What we have at the moment is that we have obstructions going into court. We have obstructions left, right and centre. It's unbelievable. It's a nightmare going into court. And any of these people here would not have a clue. And only for people like myself and others who work in this type of business that we try to help the best we can. We're not lawyers, we're not professionals, but we should not charge. I want to get that out there. Anybody who charges is doing this kind of work, in my book, are doing wrong.
Okay.
The people there need help. They have to have the help. And if they don't have the help, then they're going to be put on the streets.
Okay. Well, listen, Tom, thank you so much for chatting to me.
And thank you.
Just on the COVID issue, what Thomas said, I couldn't reiterate and agree with him more. But remember, if there's any politicians watching this, what I would like to say to them, maybe they would think and intervene here, because with the COVID restriction, that there's a tsunami of repossessions coming down the road, and the sad thing about it is they're going to end up like our friends here, and these are people too in good faith that got a mortgage to buy a home and start a family. And if there are politicians listening to this, please, because of the fact that by definition, because the people are in mortgage arrears, they don't have the finance, as Tom said, to employ solicitors or barristers. But maybe there's another way of joined up thinking that instead of evicting somebody out of a home, I mean, how often have you seen properties there gone derelict after the bank or vulture fund in particular has been successful? I can bring up the Longford situation that we all know about. That property is boarded up now, and that's absolutely nothing short of a disgrace. So if there are any politicians, maybe now step up to the plate. People should be kept in their homes.
So if you have just joined me on this live stream, I'm here at the Four Courts where 21 people faced eviction this morning. They appeared in court and they have been successful in getting a 1 week appeal, and the case is due back in the Four Courts next Friday morning. And I suppose this is a classic case of what happens when a landlord gets into difficulty with a vulture fund. The tenants who have been paying their rent faithfully for many years end up being the victims. And we're in the midst of COVID, and if there is an order of attachment and committal which could see them going to jail, these people, in order to abide by the court ruling, could possibly end up homeless and on the streets. And it's a situation that we're going to be seeing an awful lot more of in 2021. Thank you so much for watching, and please share.